Hi there and welcome to Q&A Wednesday. It is that time where I answer questions, usually questions that I get a lot from my clients or something that seems to be popping up quite a bit during the week. And so this week it's quite interesting. I've actually seen articles on this and it led me to be listening to this really great talk on YouTube today about leptin, which of course is your hormone that tells you that you are full. So we are actually going to approach fruit in general as a topic just because, I find it very interesting. There's a lot of conflicting information, as there always is when it comes to, health information and medical information. For some odd reason, you've got everybody that is a scientist and has an opinion. So, you would think that we get a lot of facts on it, but really there's a lot to it. So we're just going to try and keep it super simple today. But the topic is, does fruit make us fat? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's kind of like alcohol in the terms where it isn't necessarily going to make you fat, but it might prevent you from reaching your goals when you are reaching a little too much for, it's a great option instead of dessert because of course it's got some natural sugars to it, but there's a little more to it than that. So we're going to talk about that today. Hopefully wherever you are right now, you are not roasting to death. It's supposed to be 111 here tomorrow. I think I'm over it at this point. I think I'd rather hide inside where it's air conditioned. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about fruit and whether or not it's a good option for you. Now, of course, hey Shane, of course it's obviously going to be a better option than a lot of other things that contain sugar. When it comes to things that are naturally grown, we talk about phytonutrients at this point, which are of course plant nutrients. Obviously fruit is going to be a way better option because it's a natural sugar, and on top of that, when it comes to fruit, we're talking about lots of other we're talking about fiber, we're talking about vitamins and minerals that your body actually needs. Because if you think about what food is for in general, food is fuel. Right? And so it's not just calories in, calories out. It's not just energy. It's the actual minerals and vitamins that you're actually getting from the food that your body needs in order to run and to do what it is that you do on a daily basis, and things like heal and function. So keep that in mind that, there's some definite benefits to utilizing fruits as part of your nutrition or your meal plan. The problem comes to when we use too much of fruits. Now, for those of you who are a little bit older and paid any attention whatsoever, if y'all remember, the government had a food pyramid out there for a while that combined fruits and vegetables, which I found fascinating. And of course, if you're going to combine that, which are you going to eat more of? If you're supposed to eat a certain amount of servings out of that little corner of the pyramid, which would you rather eat more of? Most of us are going to eat fruit because it tastes good. It's sweet. It's kind of like, for those of you that have had babies and when you first started them on actual food, solid foods, if you didn't offer the vegetables first, it was very difficult to get them to eat vegetables. If you gave them the fruits first, of course they're going to want the fruits. It tastes better. It has the sweetness to it. It has some natural sugars to it. So it's really kind of ridiculous that now, of course, it's a little different, but it's kind of ridiculous to put fruits and vegetables together because even though they are both whole foods, your body treats them just slightly different. And of course, when it comes to vegetables, you're going to get a lot less carbs for all the minerals and the nutrients that you need out of them. So keep that in mind. So, if you're going to use fruits as your dessert for the day, and of course I always say if you're going to have sugar in your diet, it should come from natural sugars. There's a big difference in... So again, we're getting a little too detailed here, but when it comes to like table sugar and sucrose and things like high fructose corn syrup, there are definitely some different things that your body does with it, but in general, your body treats sugars the same. If you offer your body too many sugars, it has to do something with it. To allow too much sugar in your bloodstream, it actually can start to cause some issues with your neurological system, right? It can do some damage to that. So again, that's where, diabetics seems to have issues with extremities, nerve damage. We can't allow those sugars to be running through our system like that. So your body actually has to take insulin, which is a hormone, come in, grab those extra sugars out of your bloodstream and store them so that it doesn't become toxic. So again, your body treats all sugars the same in that fashion, but of course there are some sugars that are better for you than others. So here's the benefit of using a fruit as your sugar consumption. Number one, it's going to contain more fiber. If you're eating things like candy and snacks from the store that are commercially produced, you're dealing with a whole lot more things like additives and preservatives that your body doesn't really know what to do with. And of course, your body's going to absorb more of it because it's a processed food. And there's not really the vitamins, the minerals, and the nutrients that your body needs in them. That's what they call empty calories. So when you're eating more something like a fruit, yeah, it has natural sugars, but the fiber slows down the absorption rate. All the vitamins and minerals actually provide kind of this extra buffer to hitting your bloodstream so fast as sugar. So there's definitely a benefit there. The problem comes when we allow ourselves to eat as much fruit as we possibly want to, and if we're eating it all by itself without something like, I always tell my clients, eat a protein alongside of fruit because it will slow down the absorption rate of the sugar into your bloodstream. But also, the higher the fiber content, the slower that it will hit your system as sugar. So the fruit contains not only fiber but antioxidants, and we talked about the vitamins. It's very, very nutrient dense. So fruits are not unlimited. It depends on your system as to how well you do with it. I mean, obviously, if you have some issues with diabetes or some insulin resistance, fruit might not be your best option, your best go-to all of the time. You might also be needing to pay attention to the glycemic index, which is how quickly that food or that fruit breaks down into sugar in your system and hits your bloodstream. So the other thing to remember too, though, is, I've had some clients that say, I'm eating a lot of fruit. And my question to them, especially when their goal is fat loss, because, I don't like weight loss, fat loss is more important. If you're providing your body all of the carbohydrates or all the energy that it needs through carbohydrates, especially simple sugars, why would your body tap into fat stores as fuel? That's something to think about when, if fat loss really is your goal. You don't want to provide your body with too many. Now, I don't believe in cutting out carbs. I believe in cutting out crap. I think carbs are important, especially if they are plant-based, whether it's sweet potatoes, whether it is fruit. I don't think it's important to cut those out. I think it's important to limit your consumption of them and pay attention, because if you are providing your body as much energy as it needs with carbohydrates, there is no reason for your body to tap into fat stores as fuel. So again, keep that in mind. You need to balance that out depending on what your goals are. The other thing I want to really quickly touch on is that fruit is obviously a much better option than juice, because of course juice is concentrated sugar, and same thing with dried fruit. You're concentrating all those sugars into a smaller portion, and of course dried fruit's really easy to eat really quickly. And if you're buying it commercially, a lot of times there may be some sort of added sugar to it, which definitely is not a benefit to us. So you're better off to actually eat the whole fruit, because of course the fiber and everything, if it's broken down or if it's been juiced, a lot of times it removes all that fiber, and so you don't have that ability to slow down the absorption rate of the sugars in your system because of that. So again, whole fruit over anything else. I'd stay away from juice in general, or dried fruit, eat very limited quantities. Okay, so a couple of notes really quickly. People are rarely overweight because of eating too much fruit. Again, I really find that it comes, because honestly, if it's taking place of the other junk that most of us like to eat, or that we, the comfort foods that we struggle to stay out of, fruit's going to be definitely a better option, and it can help you deal with the sweet tooth, because I know I have one. So sometimes having that, cup of blueberries or something will really help with your sweet tooth. So really, rarely are people overweight from eating too much fruit. The problem usually comes down to the fact that it kind of might prevent you from burning fat or reaching your goal as it is. And if when it comes to the phytonutrients, obviously you're better off to do more vegetables than fruit. Because of course the vegetables tend to be less carbohydrates. Greens and things like that, I would say spinach. I do a lot of lettuce, spinach. I love green peppers at this point in my life. The greener vegetables you're going to be able to eat a little bit more of that. If I get a little too hungry, I'll actually grab an extra pepper during the day. Because of course we're talking hunger, not hunger, because there is a difference. And that kind of helps take away those hunger pangs, so that I'm not feeling like I need to eat a bunch more food at that moment. So when it comes to fruit, fruit again is probably not going to cause you to gain fat. It's probably not. Hello, Alex. Just remember that what tends to help, contribute to gaining fat would be processed food, because your body does absorb more of it. And guys, fruit snacks are not a fruit. They are not a health food. Did not know that as a young adult. And of course, I've done a little more research at this point. Processed food, if you're really trying to burn fat or avoid gaining fat, you're going to find that by avoiding, sugar, highly refined sugar, in things, when you combine sugar and fat, that's when it becomes a problem, especially, things like candy bars, donuts, pastries, and especially commercially made, because again, a lot of times they add additives and preservatives that our body doesn't know how to deal with. So what does it do with that? It stores it as fat. Okay. Pay attention to your macros. And everybody's different. So there is no blanket statement as to how many. I have a lot of people text me or message me, what should my macros be? Okay, well, what is your goal? What is your body type? How does your body respond to the different macronutrients? And of course, quality, over quantity all the time. A carb is a carb is a carb, but Pop-Tart is a whole different ball game than, say, a Granny Smith apple. So, keep in mind that the more whole food that you eat, the better off you're going to be. Also, things that can prevent you from burning fat or cause you to gain fat, really check to see if your hormones are in check. And we're not just talking about estrogen and testosterone. We're talking about all of your hormones, your leptin levels, your ghrelin levels. Those are the hormones that tell your body whether or not you're hungry, whether or not you're full. And that can become a problem, especially over time, especially depending what's going on in our lives. Sometimes stress can mess with that. Definitely by eating way too much processed food or way too much stuff that's not good for us. There's been a lot of research done that shows, especially like high fructose corn syrup can really mess with those levels and teach our bodies. It's not that we don't produce them. Our brains don't read them. They don't read, hey, I'm full. And that can be a huge problem. So can fruit cause you to be fat? Probably not if that's the only, simple sugars that you're eating. It comes down to most of us like some extra stuff that is probably a little less healthful, has a little more refined sugar, and can be a bigger problem than fruit. So hopefully that helps you. Hopefully that helps you make some good choices. Of course, I love fruit, especially this time of year, summer, cherries, all kinds of good stuff. I like to keep mine to about 2 servings a day at this point because I do want the nutrients, but I don't want necessarily to contribute to the excess sugar. I don't really need it. I can get it, I can get my carbs in other ways. So anyway, have an incredible week. Summer's still here. Go enjoy it, guys. And until next time, have a good week, guys.